My ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Excellency President of the Republic of Latvia. Please stand up to welcome His Excellency President of Republic of Latvia. Thank you, Matīss. Your Excellency, Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome on 3rd ASEM Transport Ministers meeting. Today, we will speak on development of Euro-Asia multimodal transport connectivity, and especially on status quo and blueprints for the future. And this is one of the most important events on transportation during the Latvian presidency. And let's open this event asking to this stage His Excellency Andris Bērziņš, the President of the Republic of Latvia. Please welcome.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I have a great honor to welcome you all here in Riga, in ASEM Transport Ministers Summit, that has gathered together political, transportation, business and other international organizations, leaders from Asia and Europe. Effective and multimodal connectivity is one of the main precondition for further and deeper connectivity between Europe and Asia. The leaders of Europe and Asia has already stressed it during the ASEM summit that took place in Milan last year. They expressed a wish to develop an integrated, sustainable, safe, effective and convenient multimodal transport system between Europe and Asia. Latvia is a country with highly developed transport and logistics system and long traditions of cooperation with Europe and Asia. But we have to develop rail freight, container freights options between the Baltic and Central Asia, as well as work at building China-Europe land corridor to allow the cargo to go to Northern Europe. Latvia has chosen to use its historic first EU presidency to stress the necessity of transport connectivity and to promote overall discussions on developing new integrated cargo routes between Europe and Asia in times when trade is expanding. Traditionally, cargo flow between Europe and Asia was based on sea connections. But by increasing trade options, as well as globalization of market and production, there is a need for new innovative solutions. Here, a special role is being taken by land corridors, or the new Silk Road, in the framework of which the new continental train connections will serve as backbone for international multimodal solutions, thus connecting the whole of Europe and Asia continents. I would like to stress that During this summit, the transport ministers of ASEM countries will have the opportunity to discuss the connectivity of Europe and Asia together with leading international transport and logistics entrepreneurs, as well as international organizations and scientists. This is a rare opportunity to speak about this important subject when all the players are present. When looking at transport connectivity and its development in Europe and Asia continents, it is very important to take into account the interests of entrepreneurs, because they are the ones who use and demand new solutions. That's why I am very pleased that in today's discussions, the world's leading producers and trade enterprises are being here. They will share their experience with you, and they will express their wishes for the future. I hope that this summit will not only give its input for the formal agenda, but it will allow politicians, international organizations, representatives, as well as entrepreneurs to seek and find new cooperation partners and to discuss new transport development possibilities between Europe and Asia. I wish you all a very fruitful day, fruitful discussions, and good time here in Riga. Thank you for your attention.
Yes, Excellencies, my ladies and gentlemen, if needed, please use headphones for translation. Here at the entrance, you can get them, and in case of, if you need them, please, we have assistants. Just raise your hand, and you will get your headphones for the translation. Thank you. And now, please welcome Vice Minister for Transport of the People's Republic of China and Chairperson of previous Transport Ministers' meeting, Weng Mengyong.
Honorable President, Mr. Andris Bērziņš. Honorable Minister, Mr. Anrijs Matīss. Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I would like to start by extending warmest congratulations on behalf of the Ministry of Transport of China on the opening of the third ASEM Transport Ministers meeting, and thanking Latvia for its wonderful preparations in making this meeting happen. Since the new millennium, the ASEM Transport Ministers' meetings had adopted the Vilnius Declaration and the Chengdu Declaration, aimed to bring transport cooperation in and between Asia and Europe from consensus to practice and from practice to a win-win delivery. This meeting, under the theme of developing Euro-Asia multimodal transport connectivity, which is devoted to the elaboration of forging Euro-Asia integrated transport system, will have a significant impact on deepening Euro-Asia transport cooperation and promoting the economic prosperity in Asia and Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, Euro-Asia countries are the major trading partners of China. Over the years, China, in the spirit of openness, cooperation, and mutual benefits, has kept developing practical cooperation to enhance transport connectivity in and between Euro-Asia countries. There has come into being between Asia and Europe an integrated transport network covering railway, roads, waterway, and civil aviation. In the context of the intensified economic globalization and in internet-based economic development, the Euro-Asia multimodal transport connectivity is gaining new momentum. First, land transport is on the rise. At the moment, China is actively involved in the operating China and Europe container train services, which are intended to provide railway services connecting such Chinese cities as Chongqing, Zhengzhou, and Yiwu in Europe for the purpose of forging new Asia-Europe logistics arteries. With the betterment of Euro-Asia land bridge and highway networks, railway and road transport have become more important in connecting China and the rest of Euro-Asia. Second, maritime transport is reinvigorated. Maritime transport dominates the freight transport between Asia and Europe. China is now actively engaged with countries in Northeast Asia, Southeast Asia, and Central and Eastern Europe for exploring the possibilities of sea-land combined transport, which is aimed at making full use of the regional transport infrastructures to promote the building of a convenient and efficient sea-land combined transport corridor between Asia and Europe. Hence, a cost-speed balanced multimodal supply chain solutions will be put in place. Third, air transport is robust. In 2014, freight transport volume by air between China and other Euro-Asia countries maintained steady growth, which accounted for 66% of the total international air freight transport volume of China. The sophisticated instruments, communications equipment, and high-end consumer goods in particular have seen a rising demand. With the increased growth of transport demands in Euro-Asia countries, such questions as the lack of transport infrastructure, the unharmonized standards for the construction of infrastructure and transport equipment, and a failure in the implementation of transport agreements have surfaced. Besides, the inconsistency regarding the legal and management system in the region have also implications for the further development of Euro-Asia multimodal connectivity. Ladies and gentlemen, the development of Asia-Europe multimodal transport linkage is the priority area and important foundation for joint building the One Belt and One Road. China is willing to work closely with the Euro-Asia countries to foster the development of an integrated, safe, and efficient transport linkage between Asia and Europe. In this connection, I would like to make the following proposals. First, more efforts will be made in improving the integrated transport network between Asia and Europe. To develop the multimodal transport linkages, the Euro-Asia countries should make it their primary goal to establish an integrated transport infrastructure network with sufficient capacity and ensuring secure and smooth traffic flows. We should identify medium and long-term priority projects, step up inputs to the transport infrastructure development in Asia and Europe, accelerate the construction of Euro-Asia land bridge, railway, and highway corridors, plan the construction of major seaports and airports, and the layout of the civil aviation routes in a systematic manner. Second, efforts will be made to improve transport facilitation between Asia and Europe. Euro-Asia countries should make continuous efforts in improving international transport cooperation mechanism and the related instruments to remove non-physical barriers. We should continue to strengthen the communications and dialogue as afforded by the ASEM Transport Ministers meeting to improve legal instruments governing railway, road, civil aviation, as well as transit transport, sea-land combined transport, and multimodal transport. And we should also promote the harmonization of the technical standards of transport infrastructure and transport equipment, market access system, and traffic licensing schemes. Third, efforts will be made to move forward the development of international logistics. Euro-Asia countries should make the building of a low-cost and efficient international logistics system as a priority for the development of multimodal transport. We should strive for the establishment of a cross-country, cross-industry, and cross-modal public information service platform to promote the sharing of logistic information. We should move ahead the development of an integrated logistic corridor encompassing sea, land, and air transport. And we should also further strengthen cooperation with international organizations as ICAO, IMO, ISO, and WCO on the solutions to global supply chain. Fourth, more efforts will be made to further regulate international transport market. Euro-Asia countries should strive for an open, equitable international transport market as the fundamental guarantee for the development of multimodal transport linkages. We should phase out legal and technical barriers to international merger and acquisition, transfer of technology, and market access for transport business so as to create a favorable environment for the business to take part in the international investment and cross-border operation. Ladies and gentlemen, China will, in the principle of consultation, joint building, and benefits sharing, work with the other Euro-Asia countries in our commitments to the development of Asia-Europe transport linkages. I hope that we can make full use of the ASEM Transport Ministers meeting to strengthen communications with constructive inputs to the development of Asia-Euro multimodal transport linkages and the delivery of tangible results for the cooperation between Asia and Europe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Vice Minister, Ministers. And now, please welcome for the official opening, the Minister for Transport of the Republic of Latvia, Chairman of the European Union Transport Ministers Council, Mr. Anrijs Matīss. Thank you.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, Ministers, Madam Commissioner, dear participants. As you know, Latvia currently holds its historic first EU presidency. Long before it began, we spent many hours discussing what could become the signature event or indeed the highlight of our presidency in the field of transport. We were looking for something that could symbolize Latvia's contribution to the wider European transport policy discourse and beyond. As His Excellency President of Latvia emphasized during the ASEM summit in Milan and also during his opening remarks a few moments ago, Latvia has a long history of serving as a logistics hub connecting diverse regions. It spans from the ancient amber route from the Vikings to the Greeks, throughout the glory of Hanseatic League, during the European Renaissance, all the way to the modern container trains shuttling between the Baltic states and Central Asia, not least along the strategically important northern distribution network. And it is precisely with this heritage and know-how in mind that we decided to place multimodal logistics in the forefront of our presidency focus. Even more so, we were guided to our belief that European transport policy must not be contained to the development of Europe's internal transport system and linkages with the immediate neighborhood. It must rather be updated to fully reflect the globalized nature of cross-border supply chain management, especially between the two world's largest trading partners, Europe and Asia. I'm therefore humbled to welcome you to one of the highlights of the Latvian EU presidency, the third ASEM Transport Ministers meeting in Riga. Connectivity between Europe and Asia shall be at the heart of the summit. But at the same time, there will be special emphasis on the emergence of trans-Eurasian rail-based supply chains. They have given impetus to the new wave of innovation in multimodal and intermodal logistics. Indeed, laid the foundations for the new Silk Road. In this regard, I'm particularly pleased that this summit not only gathers Asian and European transport ministers and official delegations, but also business leaders and industry representatives, institutional decision makers, and the academia. And the high number and level of participants is a true testimony to the relevance and topicality of this summit. Even more so, it's our ambition to use this event to reinvigorate the ASEM Transport Ministers meeting format. We believe it has a very important role, not only as formal ministerial, but also as a platform for networking among all stakeholders, driving forward the connectivity between Asia and Europe. And it is my strong personal belief that the foundation of connectivity rests first and foremost upon human relationships. Once again, warm welcome to Riga, and do join us tonight for the gala dinner hosted by Her Excellency Latvian Prime Minister and at the Latvian Railway Museum. Thank you very much for your attention.
And now please welcome European Union Commissioner for Mobility and Transport, Violeta Bulc. Please welcome.
Dear participants, dear guests, dear speakers, I was very encouraged by what I've heard, and I already know that this is going to be a very successful event. But allow me to also thank especially the Latvian presidency for putting this event together and hosting it. This is a very important meeting. And let me remind you that this meeting is the third ASEM Transport Ministers meeting, and the last rendezvous was in Chengdu, in China, in October 2011, 4 years ago already. And look how many incredible things have happened in transport since. And we can only speculate how enthusiastic we will be in 4 years' time. But today's ASEM represents a unique opportunity, as it was already pointed out, to gather views, ideas, and plans to shorten the distance between Asia and Europe, to make transport safer and more secure, as well as more respectful of the environment. Dear ministers, dear guests, we have in front of us a very ambitious agenda and also very important challenges to face, aiming at improved connectivity between our two continents. And connectivity means progress, means success and co-creation. And I'm always inspired by a sentence probably well known to our Asian friends. More we are connected, more we are free. In the past years, the cooperation between Europe and Asia has developed in container traffic really well by sea, as well as the number of passengers traveling by air between Europe and Asia has continued to grow. Pretty high pace. In this context, the establishment of a green, secure, and more efficient transport systems between our two continents is of great significance to the promotion of the economic prosperity and the sustainable development of Asia and Europe. Green today doesn't mean any more expensive. Green today means smart. It means innovative, and it means caring. Better connecting our two continents and all the benefits that could come with it means making it easier to move goods and people and services across. ASEM provides an important platform, as all the previous speakers have already recognized, and a very good opportunity for sharing our visions and exchanging views on the expected benefits of this cooperation between the two continents in the field of transport. This was also the most important message of the last ASEM summit that took place in Milan last October. To ensure proper cooperation, we need to fully understand our respective strategic ambitions and priorities. It is not about who's going to be more powerful over whom, but it is about who will understand the other side better to be really proactive in aligning our expectations, even better, our needs and our priorities. So allow me to present to you the key content drivers of the vision that, under my mandate, I would like to put forward in the European Union. First one, digitalization. We believe that this is a really great opportunity to bring the digitalization to all modes in Europe and hopefully around the globe. Why is that important? Because only through digitalization we can offer an advanced integrated logistics services and integrated value-added passenger services. Second, decarbonization. Smart and innovative transport that can actually contribute to a quality of life, and this is a very important motivation. And the third, internationalization. Better connectivity across the globe, and of course, seamless networks that can also operate on a level of intelligent systems. I hope we can have today a really frank and lively discussion to set a course for a truly cross-continental transport vision and, of course, first concrete steps how to fulfill this vision. For sure, the future development of rail and road transport infrastructure is one of the subjects to be discussed today. I'm very happy to reflect on how this new transport opportunity could meet the future transport demands on Europe and Asia corridors as a complement of the traditional sea transport or air cargo. However, as the European Commissioner for Transport, it is important to recall three key issues. First one, as mentioned in the title of our meeting, and as it was already mentioned in all previous speeches, which means we really truly are dedicated to this first key issue, which is the multimodal dimension of the transport connectivity. All modes, by the maritime, aviation, or land transport, should be part of our discussion. And I'm inviting you all that we really take this into account when we think about solutions. Second, I believe that we should promote not only infrastructure, but also cooperation in the regulatory field and development of high technical standards, which will allow economy of scale and economy of volume to be fully present in transport sector. In particularly, when we talk about safety and security, we really need good alignments. And third point, we need to promote an efficient and energy-friendly systems of transport. And that means also including energy efficiency from the early beginning and at all phases. All these topics are well known and I'm sure well shared among us. However, they will need more innovation, mass engagements to become a really enabler of success. Climate agenda cannot wait anymore as well. But as I said before, it should not be an obstacle, but an enabler and a motivator for our future moves. Where else do I see short-term opportunities? For sure, I see it in making better use of the existing infrastructure, but at the same time create within our reach better conditions for the transport services and solutions. And we also can do better in cargo management to ensure that trains or ships do not travel empty. Digitalization, as mentioned already before, play a very important role in demonstrating and developing these opportunities. As I stressed, I will really focus a lot in my mandate on that, and I'm inviting you all that we already now start cooperating on this layer as well. Connectivity between Asia and Europe has an important impact on many countries, and we need to ensure that all of us have the opportunity to share our concerns and strategic ambitious priorities. Success will only result from a real collaboration and cooperation. Starting with EU, we are strongly committed towards preserving a sustainable environment, ensuring low-carbon transport operations and open competition, as well as implementing high standards in terms of interoperability, as well as safety. And safety, regardless of other priorities, is always one of the top on the list. We remain, of course, open to share our experiences and to explore the best ways to ensure some convergence in our respective processes and rules. Dialogue and transparency are key principles to tackle multilateral challenges. This is why we are all here today. And I'm very happy that our declaration fully reflects all these important drivers. I wish us all a very good 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, let's move on to keynote speech. And the keynote speech will be given by Miodrag Pesut, Chief of Transport Facilitation and Economic Session at Transport Division of the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. And we will be speaking on the development of multimodal transport linkages in the Euro-Asian continent. Please welcome Mr. Miodrag Pesut.
Good afternoon, everybody. First, Your Excellency, Mr. President, Excellencies, Ministers, Heads of Delegation, Madam Commissioner, it's a great honor and pleasure for me to speak here in front of you today and to show you quickly what a number of countries which participate in this very important project have been doing for the last 10 or more years. I will say a couple of words about what the UNECE is. As I'm speaking here on behalf of our Executive Secretary, who unfortunately couldn't come, I was asked also to say a few words about the work of Transport Division in general. This is the host of the Inland Transport Committee, which is the unique European body that deals with the transport, and it covers regulatory work, analytical work, and technical assistance. A lot has been said today already about the regulatory work, and I will speak more about the Eurasian project and not the regulatory work, which is equally important. We have 58 conventions developed over years which are aimed to regulate the transport among the contracting parties, and we have contracting parties from all over the world. Now, in analytical work, this is part of our analytical work, this Eurasian Transport Links project, together with participating countries, and I will quickly move to the next content of the presentation. Now, what made us start thinking about the project and getting in touch with the countries which were interested to participate? Well, here you will see, I think, the objectives of the project. The main idea was to make the Europe-Asia overland transport links safer, secure, more efficient and competitive. Now, it was observed that there is a growing trade between Asia and Europe, and that infrastructure at that time, when the project started, was especially a big obstacle to faster and easier move of freight flows between the two continents. Now, of course, in addition to infrastructure obstacles, we had to look at the border crossing obstacles and all that to enhance and strengthen the integration between the two regions. Now, I mentioned exports and flows. This slide shows you the result of flows between countries which are involved in the project, not the whole Europe, not the whole Asia, and of course CIS countries. I think most of them are participating in the project. So you will see the huge volumes and trade only between these parts of two continents. Now, again, to illustrate another point, as was mentioned by the Madam Commissioner, we are looking at the integrated transport. However, certain modes of transport have advantages over other modes, depending on the kind of goods that you are transporting. Air transport is fast, but is expensive, so it has to transport value-added goods with a high value-added, which need to be quickly moved to the market and you know, like fashion things and so on and so forth. Maritime, bulk cargo transporting, okay, long distances, slow motion, very cheap, fine. However, road and rail have their niche when you look at the transport between Asia and Europe. The problem with the cost is not, or was not, the only one where the rail and road could find their niche. They could find the place, however, provided that the border crossing procedures were reduced to a reasonable level. However, this slide shows you some average border crossing times for selected border crossing points. And you will see that, for example, in some border crossing points, the rail is being held for 29 hours. That means more than in a day. The train, which is not dedicated train, could be held for a day. So clearly, the rail transport is not competitive if the situation remains like that. Now, what was the approach of this whole project? The approach was to form a group composed of national focal points from all interested countries who would provide the necessary information, data, and discuss and analyze and recommend certain actions. The phase one, which started in 2002, was completed in 2007. In that phase, only 18 countries participated, and in 6 meetings, they made a preliminary analysis of the situation and indicated the main corridors that the countries who were involved wished to see being developed. This part of the project, this phase of the project, was carried out together with the ESCAP, with our colleagues from the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific, And as you can see here, the selection was made of the main road, rail, inland water transport routes, transshipment points, and ports, maritime ports. Now, this phase was concluded by the meeting which was held in Geneva in February 2008 with the participation of then ministers of transport of the countries which participated in the project. Now, in phase 2, 27 countries took part. They had experts had seven meetings, and they continued to prioritize projects for those countries which joined in the second phase. And the emphasis in this phase was on facilitation. I have to mention that the partial funding from Russian Federation, Kazakhstan, Turkey, OSCE, and BISEC were very instrumental in allowing that this phase continue smoothly and ends in 2012. Now, the final report of the second phase identified more than 300 projects from all transport modes with a total cost of $215 billion. Now, most of these money was insured. However, countries then had a clear strategy or blueprint to develop those priority corridors that they indicated in the first two phases. You will see here the details about the SWOT analysis that was done, analysis of non-physical obstacles, which looked at the waiting times at borders. And the most important thing of this part was the comparison study, which looked at the maritime routes and selected rail routes. This comparison gave the following result. In 5, as you see, out of 9 scenarios, rail transport performed better than maritime for both time and the cost. I will show you the data. And in all 9 scenarios, rail transport performed better than the maritime in terms of time. Now, assumption was that no bottlenecks at borders would be present. So this is quickly the door-to-door comparison between rail and maritime routes. And best transport means, you see in the last 2 columns, which one is the best, depending on the route. I said at the beginning there were 9 routes, road and rail routes, identified in the project itself. The final report of the phase 2, you can see the conclusions that competitive Eurasian rail transport is competitive in combination with maritime and road, and it's feasible. That companies are increasingly use rail operation, and you know about many companies from Europe which outsource their production to different sites in Asia, that they have dedicated trains, I don't know, Hewlett-Packard, Siemens, and so on and so forth. However, after this phase, the border crossing was identified as a main challenge. Countries clearly said it's not a problem with the infrastructure. Yes, there is difference between the gauge, rail gauge and so on, but that can be overcome. However, border crossing facilitation is the main obstacle to faster development of the rail as a main overland transport between Asia and Europe. Now, this phase ended up in 2013 with another ministerial meeting with 40 ministers and other officials present. They adopted a ministerial statement on future development and endorsed the findings of the second phase and actually committed to work in the phase 3, which is now going on. Now, I want to show you a couple of slides of these corridors. These are road routes. They show all the 9 road routes, which you don't see here, but you see countries where they go through. And here they are in different colors. I don't know if you see clearly. Anyway, the presentation will be available. So these are rail routes, again, with the countries, against the countries, and 9 rail routes passing through different countries between Europe and Asia. Now, in this last phase 3, the objectives are to make those rail and road routes operational. Now, we are actually doing it now together with the business community and with other interested organizations and countries. We have been analyzing the situation in maritime ports, major maritime ports between or in Europe and Asia, their congestion problems, and also the kind of cargo that is being shipped by maritime transport. Why? To see what alternative modes of transport those goods can be transported by. We are also getting engaged with freight forwarders and other transport operators to see how eventually the tariffs could be integrated and offered to customers on both sides. And here you have the address of the work plan and the program of work of this third phase. Now, the conclusion so far in all these three phases that there is a huge increasing interest on the business side in using overland routes because of certain advantages. As I said, road transport is the last mile delivery. Without it, you cannot really count on transport anywhere. Rail is competitive and it presents a viable alternative to maritime transport, provided that certain deficiencies are removed. Infrastructure, which exists, as well as border crossing procedures, need further development, but probably more border crossing procedures than infrastructure. And the kind of work facilitated through this project is really a platform which brings the cooperation and facilitation of communication between countries. Now, some examples of trains that are using part of these routes that I showed you earlier. Viking train, probably colleagues from Lithuania know about this train, which is running already for a long time. Another one is this regular weekly train between Zhengzhou and Hamburg. And finally, the most recent example, this train, and I just want to hold it for a second here, between China and Spain and back. If you read on the right side what it says, that it took 3 weeks to complete a journey that takes up 6 weeks by the sea, and more environmentally friendly than road transport. Of course, it's impossible, but anyway, it's 62% less CO2 emission than it would have been if the goods were transported by road. Now, the problems, as you see in the last point, is that incompatible rail gauges and locomotives needed to be changed. These are the technical features that could be overcome eventually in future. Now, the final word, okay, I'm on time. General Assembly of the United Nations in December last year adopted a resolution which I think was initiated by Turkmenistan and then supported by some 70 countries, that was called the role of transport and transit corridors in ensuring international cooperation for sustainable development. These points here are only excerpt from the whole resolution, and I want to underline point 5, which says that the General Assembly invites all states that have not yet done so to consider signing, ratifying, or acceding to the United Nations conventions and agreements on transport and transit facilitation. And I didn't want to talk about that today, but I want to mention infrastructure agreements that ensure interoperability among countries. Then I didn't talk about TIR convention that facilitates transit. I didn't talk about international harmonization convention, which ensures border standard procedures at border crossing. I didn't talk about unified railway law, on which we are working now to overcome dichotomy between two legal systems in rail transport, which is the only transport mode which has two legal systems in Europe. Aviation has one, maritime transport has one. And now we are trying to unify these two different systems and provide the single system that would facilitate international rail transport between two continents. Thank you very much, and I hope I'm